Test one, two, three.
Thank you. So we apologize for those listening in or tuning into the meeting. We were notified that the sound was not functioning. So thank you to the team here for getting that off the ground. So if you don't mind, Commissioner, you can ask your question again, just so that the audience can actually hear.
So my question was regarding whether there was going to be asbestos testing on the asphalt and whether the demolition would be happening and the construction would be happening during the time when school was in session.
Mhm. So, so for the asbestos side, like I said, before we can do any full demolition, we have to do a testing so that in case there is asbestos, we do full abatement on everything. We have to do that. We do a lot of school projects around the Archdiocese, all over the LA Archdiocese, and so we're very familiar and comfortable with the way that we contain our projects so that kids and students and even adults, there's no way that anyone can get onto the site, the construction area. There's liability issues with the contractor and with us and with everyone. So it's fully fenced off. No one will be able to be inside the construction zone the entire time that the building's under construction.
That's good to know because I know during the conditions it kind of mentions adhering to air quality management district rules and regulations. So I was assuming that would happen, and I'm also assuming and would like to verify whether there will be proper dust control measures. I don't anticipate there being that much excavation, but
No, the excavation is going to be minimal. The site is very flat, so it's just going to be where we remove the asphalt, where we're digging foundations, and it's going to be primarily at the beginning of the project, and then it kind of mitigates as we go forward into the construction framing and things like that.
yeah, because I mean it's a residential area, so
Mhm.
I'm we wouldn't want to anger any of the neighbors.
Well, we also don't want to anger the teachers and the principal
Yeah.
and people like that
Yeah,
as
of
well.
course.
So,
Thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions, comments?
I do have a question, and it's new classrooms will be replacing existing buildings. Is there parking? Will there be available parking in there? I know it was limited, and is that going to still be available?
So, on the site plan that we're proposing, there are parking spaces that we're providing, including disabled parking space. Those will remain on the site afterwards. Generally, in terms of school operation and security, the campus has to be locked down during the day, so it's not allowed that people can come and go during school days, during the hours that the kids are there and things like that. But there will be parking that is required for this project on site.
Thank you.
Mhm.
No additional comments? Okay, guess, do you have a motion to approve? Staff, any comments? Or any clarifications on anything? No? Okay, great.
We did receive, no, we received one. Yeah, we received one letter or one email.
So I guess we'll open it up. I apologize. We'll open up to the audience. I apologize for public comment. Anybody have any comments? Please step up. Thank you very much. Any additional comments from, no? Do we have any emails?
We do, but it's from the speaker that just spoke.
Wonderful. So thank you very much. I guess now we can get a motion.
This is Liz. I move with the, I guess, striking the, what are they? The inapplicable conditions 9, 14 through 18 and 33.
Right, that's correct.
Hmm.
So just to repeat, Associate Planner Valdez read into the record that we were be striking condition number 9, conditions number 14 through 18, and condition number 33. They apply to conditional use permits, which is not part of this project, or they are already duplicates in the conditions. So we're requesting those be stricken.
Correct.
So I second.
Roll call?
Commissioner Prieto,
Yes.
Commissioner Ruiz,
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Laborin,
Yes.
Chairperson Osaeta.
Yes.
Motion passes. Item number 4, 2024 Year in Review and Report on Planning Division Activities to provide the Planning Commission an overview of the accomplishments, challenges, and goals of the Planning Division and Planning Commission during 2024 and provide an update on planning projects and division procedures.
Good evening, Chair Azetta, members of the Planning Commission. John Signo, Planning Manager. I'm here to give the presentation here for the 2024 Year in Review. It is a difficult presentation just because I haven't been here for most of last year. So what I'm really doing is giving a presentation of what our previous staff has done in the previous year. And so just to give you, before I begin, just give you a little bit of a background on what the Planning Division does. We are responsible for processing development applications that come before us to the city. Those applications are processed when we implement zoning regulations found in Southgate Municipal Code Title 11. And when we review those applications, we apply the development standards for each of the zones. Our city is broken down into several zones. They're categorized into 3 broader categories. First one being urban mixed-use zones, which are sort of a mix of commercial and residential uses. And then there's commercial industrial zones, which can be a mix of commercial uses and some industrial manufacturing uses. And then you have the residential neighborhood zones, which are your single family and multifamily residential neighborhoods. Some of the types of the reviews that staff looks at, the first one being administrative reviews done at the staff level. Those are over-the-counter reviews. Some straightforward projects such as interior remodels or solar panels or fences. Those are typically done over the counter. When a resident comes to the front counter, the planner can help them out and be able to approve the project then and there. If there is some questions about the application, they'll take it in for a couple of days and may review it, but those are typically done pretty quickly. Some of the other ones that take a little bit more time are the discretionary administrative reviews, and that includes the design review. Those are applicable for projects that are 15,000 square foot or project sites 15,000 square foot or more. And staff can approve that project administratively. What we typically look for those projects is maybe some additional landscaping, fixing up of the building, those type of general things when we look at design review. Projects that come before the Planning Commission, those are ones that are outside the administrative review process. They are discretionary. Those involve conditional use permits, which are uses that Planning Commission looks at that we typically have conditions of approvals for. We have variance applications, which are deviations from our general development standards in our code. And then we have site plan reviews for certain types of uses that the city deems requires additional review from the Planning Commission. And this just shows, it sort of breaks down the reviews, the permit process, permit types that we look at. That first column there has a list of permits that staff and the Planning Commission look at. And then the other columns there show you what the director, Planning Commission, and City Council are able to review and approve. And then the last column there being what requires a public hearing, what doesn't. So that very first, or the very top row up there, where it says administrative permit types, those are permit types that can be reviewed at the staff level. The D is means that that's a deciding body. So in the examples for administrative permits, temporary use permits, and design reviews, those are decisions that can be made by the director. And those are appealable to the planning commission, which requires a public hearing, which in turn are appealable to the city council. The projects that go before the planning commission are the ones in this row under discretionary permit process A, and those include the conditional use permits, the variances, and the site plan plan reviews. In these examples, the decision-making body is a planning commission, and your decision is appealable to the city council, and both processes require a public hearing. In discretionary permit process B, you have density bonus specific plans and regulatory plan or zoning code amendments. Those are items that the planning commission would be the advisory body on. So you make a recommendation to the city council, and the city council is actually the deciding making body for those discretionary permits, and public hearings are involved for those types. And the very last one, discretionary permit type C, those are for final parcel maps and live entertainment permits, and those, the deciding body is the city council. They would review those applications under a public hearing. So just a little bit of the hierarchy in terms of the permits types, the review. So in terms of the challenges that staff has had in the last year, one of them is really the retention of staff. It's my understanding that earlier in 2024, there was a number of planners that kind of came and went. We had a number of contract planners here, and so there was actually a lot of turnover. And what that does is it limits the institutional knowledge that staff has. There's a high learning curve also for new staff coming in, having to learn the process and having to pick up where projects have been left off. And so that's caused some of the delay. We now have a full team in terms of who's in the planning staff. We have an assistant planner, associate planner, Mr. Valdez here, a senior planner, and myself. So we have a staff of 4 staffing the planning division. However, we are pretty young in terms of not being here all that long. I believe the senior person right now has only been here for several years. Mr. Valdez, he's been a contract planner before previously, so he's been here for a year. We brought him back last month as a permanent associate planner, so he's here with us full time now. So that really helps. But we have had a lot of turnover, and that does make it difficult to process some of these projects. That being said, I mean, some of the other challenges that we've had are really with processing those applications, those projects, and being able to track those projects. We do have a case log there where we track all our applications, and we have a couple of databases set up there so that we can monitor the progress on each project. Some of the other challenges that we've had in terms of electronic applications, a lot of cities have gone to processing electronic applications after the pandemic. So they tried to limit contact with the public, and they've made it easier in a lot of ways for applicants to be able to submit electronically. What that does is reduce paper, but it also is challenging because large files are sometimes difficult to transfer over. If they're too large, they may not be able to email through. And so we worked with that by creating systems through Dropboxes or other different means of being able to be able to transfer large files over to our system. Planners are also responsible for following up with emails on there to let the applicants know. The difficulty with that sometimes is there are a number of projects that we're responsible for, so it's hard to keep track of everything. But we are working on some of those systems that we have, the processes we have in place, so that we're more responsive to the applications that are coming to us. Some of the improvements that we made over the past year, one of them happened around July 2024 when we started giving our cases PL numbers. So it's PL 24, which is the year 2024, and then the case number. So it's a case numbering system that we've used since July of last year. That gives us better tracking for incoming projects. And we've also tried to improve our database so we can keep track of what comes in. and what we need to respond to. We're also working on a PC schedule, Planning Commission schedule, where there's a review system in place. So the planner would prepare the agenda bill, the staff report, and that gets reviewed by our senior planner first, who's the supervisor for the division. And then it goes over to myself, and I take another look at that, the staff report, the resolution and conditions, and then it gets sent over to our assistant city attorney, who also has a look at it for any legal issues that might come to place. And that actually happened, I guess, in this case, the last project you just heard, where it went through the process. We actually ended up, I guess, publishing the agenda before it was fully reviewed, and that's why we had to strike some of those conditions. But what we try to do is put all those conditions into the record, into the staff report first. It is easier to delete them later on if necessary, but we do try to limit the amount of back and forth we have with the Planning Commission. So we try our best to really come to you with a project that has all the conditions in there. So there doesn't have to be any changes though, but sometimes there are some slip-ups. We'll be working on that in the coming year. The other improvements we're making are really the notices to publish a notice in the paper, and that goes over to the city clerk's office. They've been helping us out with that. So we have this process in place that before that we agendize an item, we have the full review from staff before we actually go ahead and publish it with the city clerk's office. And these are just some numbers in terms of how many customers we've helped over the past year. We found that in 2024, we've had about 2,600 customers come to the planning counter. Out of that number, it averages about 216, 217 people per month, or about 12 to 13 customers per day. In terms of the number of people that are helped by our planners, roughly 92.4% of those customers do proceed with their appointment, meaning they make contact with the planner, and they can either submit their application or get their questions answered. That other 8% or so that we don't help out, a lot of times they either find out that they need to talk to another department, another division, they may leave, or there's a no-show. But I would say out of the majority of those 2,600 customers that we helped last year, 92.4% of them we've helped out at the front counter. From that, we were able to process a number of applications. According to our case log, we've had 763 residential projects in 2024. Those include projects such as residential additions, accessory structures, ADUs, accessory dwelling units. Out of that 763 number, we've had 233 accessory dwelling units, or ADUs, applications before us. And we've also had 4 SB 9 projects, Senate Bill 9, where applicants look to, I guess, subdivide their residential lot to create some units. We've also had 157 commercial projects. Those include commercial additions, tenant improvements, signs. We've had 18 miscellaneous projects, which include zoning verifications, where oftentimes a realtor or somebody looking to sell the house may ask for a zoning verification just to make sure that the property is zoned properly, and to see what they can build on the site. And we've also had 13 entitlement projects, such as the conditional use permits and variances that come before the Planning Commission. Not all those projects have come to you. Some of them are still in the queue, so we're working on them. But out of these projects that we've looked at, a lot of them do come before us. We approve them. Some of them we don't approve. We're still working on them or still looking at them. But then they get forwarded over to Building and Safety, and Building and Safety is responsible for actually issuing the building permit for these projects. And so we've went to Building and Safety. These are the building permits for residential units that we've issued for in 2024. There's been a total of 105 units that we've issued building permits for. Building permits allows the applicant to go out there and actually build those units. Out of that 105, we've had 86 accessory dwelling units, 15 junior accessory dwelling units, and those are dwelling units built within the existing residence. We've had 3 multifamily units and 1 SB 9 unit. And again, these are actually building permits that give the applicant the ability to go out there and start constructing their project. So that's why they're a lot lower than what I showed you earlier in terms of residential projects and commercial projects that the planning staff has looked at. And this shows you a list of projects that were reviewed by the Planning Commission. And I'll go through each one of these in my upcoming slides, but you did have a drive-through Starbucks over at 9501 Atlantic Avenue. That was back in March. You looked at an ordinance amendment for warehousing back in April. Those were actually both denied. Also in April, there was the ABC license for a restaurant banquet over at 9849 Atlantic Avenue, units H and I. There was a storage building that you reviewed in October over at 8401 Quartz Avenue. There was a solar panel that you looked at later on in October for 5720 Imperial Highway, I'm sorry. And then ABC licenses that were reviewed back in December, the first one being for So5 over at Southgate Park, and then the other one being for the Target store over Firestone, both ABC licenses. And so just to go over some of these projects that you looked at and approved last year, this is 9501 Atlantic Avenue. It's a drive-through Starbucks. This one you approved back in March. Right now, the applicant's requesting for a time extension that we were looking to bring to you at a future meeting. Approvals are good for 1 year, and so this is sort of on hold. I guess there's some issues with Starbucks, deciding whether or not they want to move forward with the project, and so they've written to us, letting us know that they plan on requesting a time extension for this. This shows the elevations. The top one being the elevation, the bottom diagram there showing the layout, the queuing space for the drive-through. Project over at 9849 Atlantic Avenue. This is the corner building right over here. The project site is located. Project site is located right there. It's an L-shaped building, so you have two spaces over here where the restaurant and banquet hall is looking to go in. They requested an ABC license that the Planning Commission approved unanimously back in April of last year. And this shows a site plan of that banquet hall / restaurant, seating area, some of the shared kitchen area. And then on the bottom right there, you have a photo of what that space looks like from the outside. They have a outdoor patio that's sort of fenced off. This project is for 8401 Quartz Avenue. It's a storage building that the Planning Commission approved back in October. You approved it unanimously, 4-0. As you can see, existing, there's some industrial uses on the site. It's north of Independence Avenue, east of Otis Avenue. And these are just some of the elevations for that storage building that was approved. And this is 5720 Imperial Highway. This is a solar panel system for a commercial building that was approved back in October unanimously. This shows the plan where those solar panels are located, and you have a couple pictures there of the front of the building. And then you have the So5 project. This is a project that the Planning Commission looked at last month in December. This is an ABC license for the So5 restaurant. They currently operate the soccer fields at Southgate Park. And this is the outside of the building for the So5 building, and picture to the right shows the inside where the restaurant and the alcohol will be served. This project was actually appealed to City Council. It's going to City Council next month. It's an appeal of the conditional use permit. There's also a code amendment that the City Council needs to look at. So those are both going to the City Council next month. And they have the project over the Target store, 5700 Firestone Boulevard. They wanted to have or update their ABC license in order to have wine tasting or alcohol tasting at their facility. This went to you in December 3rd. It was approved 5-0. And these are just some photos showing the inside where their alcohol is located. They plan on having a booth or a kiosk in that area right over there where they can have some alcohol tasting for their customers. And then some of the other actions the Planning Commission did last year, one being 5037 Patata Street, there was a continuance for a warehouse that's shown down at the bottom left. You also considered a mural over at 3801 Tweedy Boulevard. And you also considered the home recognition program. You made a recommendation for 10 homes to the city council. And there's a couple of photos on the right-hand side there showing what some of those homes look like. And so in conclusion, I mean, we do have a pretty young staff in terms of how long we've been here, but I'd say we have a pretty committed staff working here at the city. We're looking to make improvements to the way we do things. We're of course still learning in terms of how we're processing the applications, but we are looking to improve our customer service, and we're looking to have to better expedite some of these projects that are going through. So we are looking forward for new projects from 2025, helping out customers get through the process. And I would say overall, I think we have a pretty committed staff here in terms of wanting to make sure that we are customer friendly to residents, and we do implement the code that's in place. And that really completes my presentation. This is a receive and file item, but we are available for any questions.
Thank you, John, and the team for putting that together. Colleagues, any thoughts or comments or questions for John?
Hi, John. So thank you for your hard work. I've actually this time received compliments. How staff is actually very responsive, very helpful. So it's very refreshing to get good calls now. And so thank you, John, and the staff, obviously, and the staff, because in the past, it was the lack of communication, and right now I'm actually receiving the opposite. So thank you to all of you. Greatly appreciated. We love to see our community happier when our staff is responsive and assisting them with their projects. So thank you.
Thank you.
I know you haven't been with the city very long, but to your understanding, have there been, and I don't know how specific you can get, but has there been any inquiries as to what to do to work on the issue of staff retention? I'm hoping, that there was something out of the exit interviews or something that the city can undertake to really work on keeping staff. As my colleague here mentioned, it's important to really, serve our residents, our the folks who are running business here, and it has been really tough. I had a neighbor who had trouble getting some sort of pipe work done, because even though the pipe was damaged by tree roots, because the damage was done within the property, it was their responsibility to fix the damage all the way to the street, which required planning staff approval, which she said took forever to approve, which is really inconvenient, considering they're that they live in this property and have to use their sewer system. And so I'm really hoping that that's something you can answer and work through, and hopefully that any incoming director can really work on making that that a priority. But and I know we need to get those ducks in order before we even start looking at any codes that need to be looking into. I've heard comments about existing codes that aren't very clear, that make it hard for folks to really approve or go through projects. And that's kind of one of my question, whether that's something that is in the works, or any plans for that. I know that there was a recent revision that kind of, from my understanding, made things worse. I don't know if you have any comments on that, or.
Yeah, I can say, I mean, in terms of retention, we're hoping that we can last and stay longer. I mean, one of the good signs is we did have Mr. Valdez here. He was a contract planner previously, and he came back to be part of full-time staff. So we are hoping to keep our staff happy and hoping to be here for a long time, serving the community. In terms of, I guess, communication with other departments, it sounds like your neighbor had an issue, possibly with Public Works, because if there's a line there, sewer line that connects over to the street, to the main is usually located in the middle of the street. That's something that we'd have to coordinate with Public Works on. But we are looking to improve our relationship also with other departments, including Public Works. In terms of code changes, we are actually looking, one of the items you considered last year with the warehousing uses. We're looking to actually bring an item to City Council for them to consider possibly amending our requirements for warehousing and industrial uses and other sections in our code. That's going to City Council hopefully on February 11th. And that's something, it went before Planning Commission. We brought it to City Council after that, and that's something that they seem willing to consider. Hopefully what it does, it makes our code a little bit more business friendlier, because right now we do have a pretty strict requirement on the size of warehousing use. So we'll see how or where City Council wants to go on that.
I don't have any questions, but I do have a comment. I just want to say thank you. I echo what my colleagues here are saying. Thank you for making improvements in the processing of applications. And also, I know that it's been difficult with the turnover, but we appreciate what you're doing, and thank you for serving our community.
Thank you.
Just a quick question regarding staffing. I know you referenced you were able to bring a few folks on full-time. Do we still have any vacancies in the department?
Well, right now we do have and I was going to introduce our interim community development director during the directors, but we do have David Crabtree here. He's here on an interim basis. We did open up the community development director position, so that's opened right now. HR is handling that recruitment. In terms of the planning staff, we are fully staffed right now. We actually lost an intern last month as well. So there's been some turnover. He was only here once a week, and so I guess he decided at the end of last year, not to come back. But we are full staffed right now in terms of having 4 planners, including myself. And the only recruitment right now that we have, we have the community development director that we're recruiting for. We have a department clerk that we're looking to hire soon as well. So those are just some of the positions we're looking to hire in our department.
And I know during the presentation you referenced that there are a few projects in the queue. How many projects are currently maybe on hold until we get to them?
In terms of those are the discretionary projects, the conditional use permits and variances. You saw the list that I had for last year. That was only really a handful. We do have a couple projects that we're looking to bring before you in the upcoming year. I'm going to say it's probably going to be similar to what we had last year. There might not be a lot. We may have a number of meetings canceled if we don't have anything to bring to you. So I would just say maybe expect a meeting a month, which seems like it's been that's pretty much how it's been going the last year or so.
I think, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it is important to to make sure we're clear with the community that sometimes the holdup is not on city staff, it's on the applicant themselves, making sure that they submit the proper documentation with recommended revisions based off of the guidance of city staff. So I know sometimes there can be a little bit of a holdup and folks can be upset because their project isn't moving along, but it's a two-way street, right? At the end of the day. That is important to kind of note as we kind of move forward. And I think my last question is, I know there was a conversation maybe a few months ago and maybe earlier in this year specifically around community development priorities for the department. Is that something that how often is that visited? Or maybe I'm not even referencing it accordingly. It's not the actual master plan, but I know usually the priorities for the department. But
Well, and-
David,
Sure, just early comment. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And my caveat to all of this is premature for me to comment. John and I haven't even had a chance to sit down, but hearing your comments and wanting to offer some feedback, I can tell you that when your city manager invited me to come help support the team and the systems while you recruit to find a new permanent director, I heard a lot about an emphasis that the city needs to get back to customer care, get back to responsiveness to not only the development community but to your residents, and that pretty much stems from the city council and their direction to the city manager's direction to the staff, and that this staff has as, if you will, job one to kind of do a reboot with an emphasis on those kinds of things. Sometimes just a reboot of systems approaches and having the systems in place, and having your new planning manager here with some of his background from other communities. I'm sure he's already, I can tell, initiated a few things that are going to be helpful towards that. Just being responsive and responsible. To your last comment, just what the overall staff work program is, and revisiting that and discussing that with the city manager's office. And he in turn updates the council, gets further direction, and we can fine tune that, setting those priorities, if you will. So all of this in the mix. And if I might say, this is a great first meeting for me because you're discussing this, and I'm absorbing some things too that we'll be talking about, and I'll be sharing with Rob Houston, your city manager.
thank you and welcome to Southgate.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think my last comment is I know we often reference that we want to be business friendly as a city, but it would also be very helpful. I mean, this is the world you live in. I always say I'm just visiting. So I think it would be really important, and I think it would be useful to provide some comparison in regards to fees that maybe we have here in the city and maybe fees that are applied for other cities that we don't apply here based off of developer applications and things of that nature. That is something that I think we often say we want to be business friendly, but I do know that there are a lot of fees that businesses have to kind of address in other cities that they don't have to address within our city. And as we look at being very mindful of our budget and moving forward, I think it is important to make sure that all those fees are taken into account accordingly by businesses that want to do business with our city, especially as we look at the city budget and it's not looking too well. So I think that is something to be creative on and see where there's opportunities to generate additional revenue for the city. So those are just my comments, not a directive, but council, you
You're in an advisory capacity. You would certainly be within your realm to recommend fee structure changes to the council, but those the city fees are normally determined by a city council resolution.
but we would still have the ability to at least get the staff to explore those for city council.
Oh, certainly, if you want to see what the current city fees are and what are charged, that should be a fairly easy thing for the staff to pull up the most recent, city approved fee structures.
Yeah, this is good input, good for us to then carry back to the city manager's office and have some discussions. I won't begin to guess when the last time the city did some kind of a fee analysis, a fee study, if you will, and any kind of updates. So, yeah, good grist for the mill and noted. We'll have those discussions.
So any additional comments from my colleagues?
John, I have a question. I don't expect an answer now, but maybe on next meeting or via email. That Amazon parking structure that was being worked on Atlantic, um, that was, well, it's on, the property is on Atlantic and it goes all the way through Rio. I still see work being done. And I was approached and said that, I was approached and asked that, what was really happening there since it wasn't approved. You probably don't know about it.
Yeah, actually, what was not approved was a permit dealing with the actual package distribution center, sort of on the north end of that street. The parking lot that's being built, that's under a separate CUP that was approved several years ago. So it's I don't know if there are construction delays or whatnot, but as far as the city approval for them to put the parking place, the parking lot there, that was approved by the planning commission several years ago.
Okay, thank you. So, the reason I was asking is, I was approached, and so, some residents were concerned if there was, if Amazon was just gonna move forward in using that parking lot, so.
Like any conditional use permit, they had to commence their work within a year, and they should be, you know, proceeding with it at a reasonable pace. So if it goes dormant for a long period of time, then the commission would have the right to call another hearing and potentially revoke the permit. But if they're proceeding at a normal pace and not otherwise violating the terms of the permit, then it's just another issue of construction taking longer than anybody likes. But like I say, if it completely stops for a long period of time, then that might give grounds for calling the permittee back for a hearing to discuss what's going on and whether or not the permit conditions have been complied with.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think we have any audience comments? No. Any
I received an-
emails?
Yeah, I received an email from Mr. Mario Dominguez.
Okay. Will you be reading it in full?
Yeah, it's not that long.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
He says, I would like to ask for an update on the status of the Starbucks project, which is to be built on Atlantic Avenue. Which phase of development is it currently in? Do you know when it will be in the construction phase? Do you know when the construction phase will begin? Do you know when it will be completed and open to the public? Can you give us an estimated time as to what year will be completed? Will it be 2025, 2026, 2027? I am looking forward to having this project. I particularly love the location for it. It will be located south of Triangle Park. Please let us know. Thanks.
And I can answer that question if you like. That's the Starbucks over at 9501 Atlantic Avenue. That's the one where the applicant requested a time extension. And so there really is no time frame in terms of when it's going to be built.
Thank you very much. Any staff comments? And David, I think we didn't, I apologize. I know you jumped in right day one, but if you introduce yourself to us prior to the meeting, but if you don't mind introducing yourself to the community,
Sure.
a little bit about yourself, your background, and we greatly appreciate it.
Sure. Thanks very much. Great to be with you. I'm David Crabtree. I'm your interim community development director, and the city invited me in to help support the staff and your operations here in community development, and to help them recruit for a permanent resident for that office. For me, I retired from my full-time local government work back in 2019 from the city of Brea down in Orange County after spending a little over 30 years with that organization. started there back in the late 80s as an assistant planner, and they finally showed me the door as their community development director about 30 years and 4 months after that. But a great community. I was fortunate enough to be in one place for my entire career, and those opportunities to advance just came along at the right time for me, so I didn't move out of house. But retired always with the idea of doing some consulting for a time, or doing some further support to other local governments, and that's I've been very fortunate. This is now in 5 years my seventh interim assignment. Yeah, ours is a very small world, as it turns out, even across county lines, and so I've now served in this role for the cities of, let's see if I can do this from memory, Buena Park, La Habra, Fountain Valley, Chino Hills, Laguna Beach, and most recently this past year, El Monte, and here I am. And my wife keeps reminding me, aren't you supposed to be retired? And but if the phone rings, I answer it, and as long as it's not conflicting with something that we have planned, and it's a good thing, why I'm happy to help. And it's been very personally rewarding after being in one place for most of one's entire career. It's great to get out and meet new people, new staff, new community members, learn about local issues, and see how you might add some value. So happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Staff, any additional comments?
No, I think Mr. Crabtree said it all. I didn't realize though, but I always feared Mr. Valdez has been here before, but it really is his first meeting here as a full-time employee. So,
Would you like to introduce yourself? Maybe a little bit about your background.
Sure. So Joshua Valdez, went to UC Davis for school, and once I finished there, I started working in the local government with the city of Woodland, which is 9 miles north of UC Davis. So there I was a water conservation intern, ironically, and then I was a planning intern, and then I was a junior planner, and then I was a management analyst. Didn't really like the analyst life. I got poached by Interwest, so then I became a consultant planner. They relocated me down south. I'm born and raised in South LA, the unincorporated area right next to us. So I'm familiar with Southgate. I've been in the area for quite some time. Went to school in Huntington Park, but not HP High. It's the new charter school by Norms off Slauson. And then I was a contract planner for over a year, for almost like a year and a half. As a contract planner, I serviced city of Garden Grove, Southgate, San Fernando, San Dimas. I think that's it. Oh, no, I was actually also helping the city in Fernley, Nevada. And what's that other city that's over there? Another city down by San Bernardino, down over there. And then, yeah, I got the opportunity to come back to Southgate. It's fairly close to my house. I have 2 Frenchies who I enjoy catering to. And so they appreciate me being closer to home than San Dimas, like a 45-minute commute without traffic. So it was crazy. Glad to be back and serving the community and being a part of the team.
Thank you very much. And I just want to make sure I thank the staff for your hard work, and congratulations on the great work in Brea for 30 years. You definitely can see the development that transpired there. So it's great to see the person that was involved in that work. So welcome to Southgate. And my colleague here.
Actually, I wanted to thank one of our colleagues, Daisy Prieto, for all the hard work that I saw you were during these fires, how you and the Kiwanis were, helping those victims and stuff. And I also want to, publicly thank to all other organizations within our city. I know there's a lot of community members coming together, to to provide these donations. They went to Downey or they went to, to Linwood or to Paramount to make donations. I also want to thank the people that have reached out to me. My husband was working those fires. Haven't seen him in like 3 weeks, but it's okay. So thank you for reaching out to me. My husband is safe. He's resting right now, but thank you also for the donations that went directly to his station that was needed directly to them. But thank you so much, and we continue to have those victims affected by the fire that lost their home, or it's such a huge loss. But seeing our community just come together, and I know it's still a long process ahead of them, and you can recover the material stuff, but hopefully they'll have a place to stay soon. And yeah, so we have a very great community. And thank you, Daisy, and you please thank everybody for all that hard work, because I know that the Kiwanis does a lot of fantastic work and makes our city look great. Thank you.
Well, on that note, we can adjourn the meeting? Yeah, what time we have? Adjourn the meeting at 7:40. Thank you very much.